It's only entertainment.
Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. With me, Dan Humiston of PodConx. Dan.
Josh, good to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for being on the Talking Hedge.
My pleasure. We're at MJ Biz Show. This is awesome.
Yeah, this is the world's largest cannabis conference. We've known each other for about 3 years. First time we've met in person, which is really weird because I feel
so
like
weird.
I know you, and I'm like, yeah, we've never actually met in person. But here we are. What brings you to MJ BizCon, world's largest cannabis conference? Why are you here?
Well, we have 50 shows now, including the Talking Hedge on our network. And so we're here to talk to advertisers, and we're here to talk to our listeners. We're here to record a lot of shows, and we're here to, maybe talk to some people that might be interested in joining our network. So everyone's here. So if you can't figure it out in Vegas this week, it's going to be hard to figure that out because everybody's here. But they say 35,000 people are here?
The rumor is 35,000 people, over 1,200 booths, and it's been pretty crazy.
I just talked to the person that helped us with the press, because we're in the press.
Yeah.
And she said there are 1,435 booths.
Wow.
And I was like, she's like, they're still selling them. I'm like, who's buying them today? She goes, I don't know. Somebody just bought one for this afternoon and tomorrow.
That's crazy.
It's totally crazy.
That's it. I saw a 10 by 20 that was completely open, vacant. I don't know if they got sick and couldn't show up. I know Forefront, the guys from Forefront couldn't. They all got sick last minute. But whoever's booth that would suck.
Yeah.
You're dropping 10, 20 grand easy on that and not to be able to utilize it. And the one time of the year where you get this kind of exposure and awareness.
No, and it's hard. And I mean, that's kind of the whole point of PodConx, is that it's really hard for cannabis companies to get their message out.
Right.
Very hard, because a lot of different media prohibits our advertisers to put their message out. Google, Facebook, Instagram, you can't put your ads on there. So an event like this is one of the few ways where you can meet your customers, and if you can't make it, I mean, it could ruin your whole year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that come here and don't even hit the floor. They definitely don't listen to the speakers, but they're here for the opportunities to get in front of PodConx, and it's all of the 50. You say 50?
50 shows now.
There's 50 shows now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm proud to be one of the first ones. Here we are.
One of the cornerstone shows.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that some of those shows are going to be talking about the news that hit the wire yesterday with the historical vote in the Senate to be the first standalone bill to pass the Senate for research. Now, I'm going to be a little bit cynical here because there's already a patent. 6630507 is a patent on cannabis's ability to be a neuroprotectant. There needs no more research. This is literally just kicking the can down the road and just a delay tactic at its finest. But everybody's super happy because we're at in Vegas, and so they're going to be talking about how great this is, when in reality, it is a delayed tactic. What's your take on the ability to finally research cannabis?
Well, let me take one step back before I answer that. I agree that some of these are a lot of lip service, and could be one of those situations. But the general public needs, or I should say the industry needs the general public to hear positive news about our industry, especially the investor community, because it needs a little kickstart again. Things dried up. The macro economy slowed everything down. The industry needs a kickstart. So when President Biden comes on and says, I'm going to pardon all of the federal people incarcerated in federal prisons for cannabis, that's good for the industry, because it gets everybody, there's good stuff happening in the industry. When 2 states, Maryland and Missouri, pass rec, that's good for the industry. It gets momentum going. This, same thing, gets momentum going. And I'm always saying, and now sort of your answer to the question about the research, I'm always worried when government does anything. It's like, what's that question say? when the government comes to, I'm here to help. You don't want to hear that.
Well, I was raised when the government knocks on your door and says, we're here to help, you shut the door and lock it. That's how I was raised, but there's a lot of people out there who be like, come on in. I got the place set for you. And I'm like, oh, hell no.
No.
I don't trust them as far as I can throw them.
No, and I think that if we can, I know it's really hard to self-regulate but I mean, we're doing a pretty good job of building this industry without federal regulation and I know it's not where everybody would want it to, but I don't really know what that would look like so to me I kind of like this thing to play out a little bit by itself, but I would like more positive momentum, more positive news, and I think this is good for that. I'm with you. I'm not. This isn't like, I don't know that this is really going to change the game. Other than it's one more good news thing that's happened over the last, say, 6 weeks, and so I
think it's lip service on the administration's when they were before Biden got elected on the campaign trail. He said he wanted to legalize. This is just a delay tactic. But if they can get more concrete proof than the patent they already have, more the merrier. Let's go with it rather than delaying it for 2 more years so he can go on another campaign spree and talk about legalizing. Yeah. Like, enough is enough. Just do it already.
That's a good point.
I'm tired of the bullshit, really. So I have no patience.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yes, I will. Maybe. Yes. So you're here. Your big takeaway from this event this year, you've been more than 1 year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about maybe the differences and the takeaways that you're hoping to get this year versus previous years, because the layout is a little bit different. The vibe is different. It's 2 stories. The speakers are way over there, and so when the rooms do come out, it floods the room. But in the meantime, doesn't it kind of look like it's a little bit less crowded? It doesn't feel like 35,000. Maybe that's a good thing. Perception is reality, though.
I know.
Do you think people will come back feeling that it wasn't as well attended?
Well, as a former trade show producer, I mean, this is something that we wrestle with nonstop, and I always like to have all of my conference sessions in my rooms close to the floor. Like, I didn't like to move the people off the floor because my exhibitors would be mad if they were too far away, because that walk from wherever they are to wherever, there's too many distractions. I could decide not to go to lunch, or I could do this. But if you walk out and you're right on the floor, then you're back in it. And so I was a big proponent to trying to keep my conference rooms as close to the floor as possible. So I would say that's a negative. The upstairs, downstairs, that doesn't bother me as much. It's bothersome. Some people have said to me that it bothers me, or it bothers them, but this upstairs, downstairs setup doesn't really bother me. It's overwhelming whether I'm on the first floor or second floor, right?
Yeah.
So it's still overwhelming.
Yeah.
Now let me put my exhibitor's hat on. I kind of like it when it's a little bit more manageable. I like it when the ebb goes out before the flow comes back, because the people that I need a conversation versus a soundbite with people in order to make my sale. Right. So I think from a sales standpoint, this may actually be better, because if I would say the one negative thing that we used to hear about the MJ Biz show is that you can't get anything done there because it's too busy. And so people would say, I like coming to your show because it's not so crazy, we can actually make sales. So, I mean, we'll have to see how this one plays out, but that would be one, probably a perspective that you may not have thought of or you may not have seen.
It's definitely easier to approach the booths, and I think a lot of that has to do with it being aggregated by sector or industry. So you have all of the machines, together. You have all of the HR people, which is going to be a plus and minus. I like it as an exhibitor because then I can get to where I want to go and I can see all of it and you don't miss out. But I think the exhibitors might, and maybe you can chime in on this having the experience, but my perception is that if you have a competitor to your left and right and they're overhearing your conversations and they know who your clients are, that's a massive disadvantage that may deter them from coming back.
Yeah, we used to do the Hemp Pavilion. This is in the early days. We had a Hemp Pavilion and we had all the hemp shows in there. Occasionally we got pushback for that reason alone, but not as much as you'd think. However, like if I was, say, like an accounting firm, cannabis accounting firm, and I had 3 other accounting firms on my row, I don't know that wouldn't be so good for me. I would rather have, maybe another accounting firm all the way down to that end and this. But if somebody's looking for an accounting firm, they're not going to miss us if we're all in the same row. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I was at a financial technology innovation conference in San Francisco, and to your point about not having the speakers leave the floor, they had everyone like right there. So while they're speaking, it's a little bit louder, but then when the sessions come out, they just swarm all of the booths.
Yeah.
Now, the same conference from the same people in New York at Finovate, they put everybody on the 8th floor for speakers and on the 6th floor for booths. So that meant when you got out and you hit the elevator, you're just going to go all the way down to the lobby. And they skipped everybody. And it was a completely different show. I was super excited for New York, thinking it's a financial capital, whereas Silicon Valley show was just about tech. And we are financial tech, so both of them made sense, but San Francisco was better because the people were there and they didn't leave.
Yeah. I was 100%. I mean, it's hard though, because especially when you get to this size, this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest convention venue in the world, or maybe
one of the largest convention centers in the world. Yeah.
And if these guys can't figure out how to or how to configure space so they can get your speakers close to your floor at this size, who nobody can.
Yeah.
So I think this is kind of one of the unfortunate things of the sheer mass of this show is that you've outgrown that option, which is, it's just too bad. But next year they're going to be at where they were last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were moving back to the East Wing where we were.
Do you know why they chose this layout? It reminds me of a CannaCon in Seattle back in the day when they had this 2-story deal. And I don't mind it. It's okay. If you remember 2016 when NJ BizCon was at the Rio and they had 4 different rooms.
Yeah, that was tough.
If you were too high, you would forget you already went in that room. Whereas this is only 2 floors instead of 4 rooms that all look the same.
Yeah.
Do you know why they ended up going with this format?
I don't know for sure, but my guess is that all the other options were booked. It's really hard. I think it used to be, prior to COVID, it used to be really hard to get your dates and then the space. So you want the space, but sometimes you don't want a date that's like right after Thanksgiving or, right after, maybe within the Jewish holidays. You've got to be careful on these certain dates. Mm-hmm. And I remember we were booking shows 6-7 years out so we could get the dates we wanted. And sometimes you had to suck up this because you couldn't get the space you wanted, so you had to sort of suck it up because you couldn't get the space you wanted, but it was the dates you wanted. And so, that's always a juggling act. So this was, in my mind, I felt like this was their best from dates that they've had in a while. Last year, it was like in December. I thought that was too late. This October, November is the sweet spot of conventions. This is when you want to be, October, November. So everybody wants to be in these dates. Next year, they're at the end of November into December. It's not as good a date, but they have a better space. So that's my only, I don't know for a fact that that's what it is, but that would be what I'd assume.
That makes sense. All right. And that's going to happen quick. 2023 is almost upon us. What is PodConx going to be up to next year? You guys are already up to 50 different shows, a lot of different things. It's pretty much all audio right now. Is there going to be some video? Like, where do you see PodConx in 2023 and beyond?
Well, Yeah, we just got our 50th show that joined, so that brings our total downloads for the month over 100,000.
Wow.
Which was kind of our mark at the beginning of this year. Our goal was to get to over 100,000. So at this pace, we're going to be, I think probably 125 or maybe 130 by the end of the year. So we can accommodate the bigger advertisers. My thought in the early days was that someday Domino's, Doritos, Uber are going to want to advertise to our customers, and they're not going to, and they're going to go to try to put their ad on Facebook, and then they're going to get rejected. When they come to us, you can't say, "Well, I got 25,000 downloads," because they're going to be like, "Well, what's that?" Right? They want 500,000 or a million impressions, a million people listening to this, and that's what. So we need more people to increase their listenership for the people that are on our show or on our network, and we need more shows to come on so that we can accommodate those bigger advertisers. So it's right now it's a combination of inviting more shows to join our network and reaching out to more advertisers so that we can get more advertisers. Down the road, though, we already have a lot of shows that are doing stuff with YouTube, so there's incorporating the video. YouTube's a little, for people that wouldn't know, this is kind of in the weeds for cannabis or for podcasting, but YouTube doesn't really have their podcasting game dialed in yet. But I've been to a few podcasting conferences where they spoke, and that's on their radar, where they're going to be able to, where your show's going to be automatically will go to YouTube. Right now, it's an extra step. We don't get the demographics, we don't get the analytics from YouTube, so it's a little bit, it's not exactly right now, but that's going to change. And when it does, we'd kind of like to be in position to take advantage of that. YouTube is also pretty stingy when it comes to how much money everybody gets. And so, that's something else that I think they have to work with, but I don't know where that's going to go. So to answer your question, we're putting pieces in place to get to video, to be more aggressive with the video side of what we're doing and to accommodate all of our shows that want to go in that direction. So that's where we are.
So if anybody wants to advertise on the Talking Hedge and the other 49 plus shows, how can they get a hold of you? Where are you at so they can get some more information?
Probably the easiest way is just go to our website, PodConx.com, PodConx. Everybody gets it wrong. If I were to do it over again, I would have had a different name. So many people are like, PodConx. I'm like, I wanted it to be Connex, but I guess anyhow. So PodConx, advertisers or people that are interested in, either me or somebody else on the team can help you, walk you through what we're doing. It's really easy, yeah. And it's pretty painless.
It is, yeah. It's a great system, great setup. So if there's any podcasters out there, check it out, PodConx. And investors, give us your money. All right, with that, I think we're gonna have to roll this one up. I wanna thank my guests with PodConx. Why did I just Humiston? Sorry. I wanna thank my guest, Dan Humiston of PodConx. Thanks for being on the Talking Hedge.
Josh, great.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out.
Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.